The fact that Richard Nixon had to resign over the phrase, seems like nothing compared to the feeble defense that Senator Jim Risch of Idaho tried to corner Jim Comey with on Thursday. Here's their exchange after Comey said that Trump told him he hoped that Comey would let the investigation of Michael Flynn go.
You may have taken it as a direction, but that's not what he said.
Correct. That's why
he said, I hope.
Those are exact words. Okay. Correct.
You don't know of anyone that's ever been charged for hoping something. Is that a fair statement?
I don't, as I sit here.
Joining me now is the host of MSNBC's hugely rated The Last Word, my good friend Lawrence O'Donnell. I hope you brought your 2 million viewers.
I just got a call from Phil Griffin, our fearless leader and beloved boss.
Yes.
He's hoping you host the show tomorrow morning, if you can make it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a big hope of his.
Yeah, well, exactly. Has anyone, and let's just answer Jim Risch's question, because it was his television moment. I mean, come on, it was his debut. And he just chose to stand on the idea that no one's ever been prosecuted for hope. Is that true?
Yeah, and a bunch of cases have come out since then saying, yeah, sure, this has been in the dialogue of these kinds of scenes for many years. People know that they believe that if they can shade their language in these moments, they can get away with it. And the history of the case law says, no, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like nice business you got there. I hope nothing happens to it, right? You can think of it in that term.
Yeah.
So the other sort of interesting thing that stood out to me in the Jim Comey, and this is not in actually what he testified to, but in what he wrote, what was circulated the day before his big blockbuster testimony. And this is fascinating to me. It was I thought it was the key phrase in the whole thing. March 30th phone call. This is how he reacted when Trump once again asked him to help get out the fact that Trump himself personally was not under investigation. And Comey says this: I explained that we had briefed the leadership of Congress on exactly which individuals we were investigating, and that we had told those congressional leaders we were not personally investigating President Trump. I reminded him I'd previously told him that, and he repeatedly told me we need to get that fact out. And then he parenthesizes, I did not tell the president that the FBI and the Department of Justice had been reluctant to make public statements that we did not have an open case on President Trump for a number of reasons. Most importantly, because it would create a duty to correct.
Exactly.
Should that change.
Yeah, and as you know, as I said last night, the president is uneducable. He cannot learn, because I could go into that meeting as president thinking, I really want him to say this, and then I hear him describe all the reasons why he shouldn't, and then he says, look, if I say you're not under investigation now, if that changes, I must publicly say it has changed and you are under investigation. Now, if you can think, which apparently Donald Trump can't, that means you're better off where you are now, because you might someday be under investigation and it would be publicly announced. But if you leave it where it is now, it won't be publicly announced when you become under investigation, as it were. And even when you go under investigation, you might survive the whole thing in the end, right? So you could have gotten through the whole thing, just by shutting up. But he couldn't learn in that moment that the best thing for him, the very best thing for him, is that Comey keep doing it the way he's doing it.
But Lawrence, Donald Trump claimed, at least the public claim, was that he fired Jim Comey for exercising his duty to correct against Hillary Clinton. So he theoretically knew that this is a guy who would go on the TV and say, oh, I changed, now this person who we said was not under investigation is again. So that is the guy he's dealing with. Does he not remember that he said that?
He's the same guy who, many, many months after the whole Hillary Clinton episode, as President of the United States, we learned the other day, James Comey told us, that when James Comey walked across the room in the White House in that famous video we've seen 10 million times, the whisper in the ear was, I'm really looking forward to working with you. And he's the same guy who told Lester Holt, in what has become, let's frame this here, the most important presidential interview done in the modern era, because that presidential interview done by Lester Holt has created a special prosecutor. The president in that interview said, I thought about Russia when I decided, it was time to fire Comey. Comey took that as the reason. Comey advanced that as the reason yesterday in the Senate hearing, and it was not disputed by anyone in the room. Not one Republican said to him, I don't get it. How are you interpreting the reason to be Russia No one in the room was confused about that or expressed the slightest doubt about that.
Yeah, and then he reinforces that was the reason when he talks to, of all people, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister.
Got rid of the pressure.
Right.
The pressure.
Well, so Lawrence, you pioneered this thing about just stating bluntly that Donald Trump is a liar, that he is not an honest person.
But I waited until he lied.
Until he lied.
Which was the very first time he opened his mouth about President Obama. That's when his lying came into the jurisdiction of my program.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he spent a lifetime lying to wives and everyone else he encountered in the course of the day. That really wasn't part of my 10 p.m. jurisdiction, so I let those slide.
So given that setup, do you think that Donald Trump was telling the truth when he told Jonathan Karl and the assembled press corps that he is 100% willing to testify under oath about Comey, about what Comey said?
I think the truth is 0%. I think it's somewhere around 0% willing. And he won't, he won't agreeably do this. He's going to struggle with it, but unfortunately for him, the case law is solid. United States versus Nixon. He's going to be ordered to testify. He will have absolutely no choice. He's going to be ordered to turn over evidence. He will have absolutely no choice. He doesn't know any of this because he has testified, not under oath, to Howard Stern, that during the Nixon years, his primary concern in life was how much sex he could have with how many women in Manhattan. That period of his life, because he was risking venereal disease on a daily basis, he told Howard Stern, this is all in his public testimony, that period of his life was his personal Vietnam.
Good God.
That's his understanding of Vietnam.
Unbelievable. So, Lawrence, you come from a family of lawyers. Donald Trump doesn't have a great one. You're the one black sheep in the family who decided to do cable TV.
I've played a lawyer on TV, but I really have.
But you really have. You actually really have. So Donald Trump doesn't seem to have an expert one. Let's just put it that way.
He is the worst lawyer I've ever seen in Washington.
But if he had a better lawyer, is there any attorney that could help someone like Donald Trump?
No, and the better lawyers know it, which is why they all refused to represent him. They all said, well, we know what to do. We know how to handle these cases, but we cannot represent a client like this because obviously he cannot learn. I mean, those lawyers knew what I said on TV last night, and I've said before, he cannot learn. And so lawyers have to teach clients all the time because no one goes into a lawyer knowing what they need to know. The lawyer says, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't say this, don't do this, don't, and everyone, the good clients follow what the lawyers say. But, this guy is incapable of it.
On the McLaughlin scale, 10 being 100% dead certainty and 0 being never, ever, ever going to happen, chances of this Congress impeaching Donald Trump?
That's up to Donald Trump and what he does between now and then, but I'd say it's around a 5 right now.
Oh, you think it's a 5?
Yeah, I do.
Even
because,
with Republicans?
Look, we have the most spineless speaker in the history of presidential investigations. Every other speaker confronted with a presidential investigation has handled themselves with far more strength and certitude than Paul Ryan has. Including, by the way, Newt Gingrich in the pursuit of Bill Clinton. Just include them all. But so even this spineless response that we're seeing is striking to me because there were no real solid defenders of Donald Trump saying, I don't believe James Comey and I do believe Donald Trump. That's not what you were hearing. You were hearing pretty weak stuff. And Donald Trump is capable of changing their universe this weekend. They're with him today. That doesn't mean they're with him at noontime tomorrow. There's madness in the White House. They know it. It can erupt at any moment, and he's got plenty of time to do it. Can I reach back to a previous hour of your show? Because I don't miss a minute.
Oh, okay.
You expressed you had some things to say about the feelings of men when testifying to the Senate, when they feel they don't want to reveal their conversations with the president. You were referring to Dan Coats, the director of national intelligence, the director of the NSA. And Joy, I sensed in that part of the show that you don't completely understand men's feelings. No. When it especially when it comes to not wanting to answer a question. Now, and I would think anyone who has dated a man, been married to a man, understands what men become when you ask them a question that they don't feel like answering. They become a puddle of feelings. We cannot speak. There are no words. No words come into our heads when you ask us a question that we don't want to answer. That's when feelings control everything about us.
Oh, you delicate flowers.
And
you delicate, delicate flowers.
I knew that when I was watching those guys. Their feelings.
Yeah.
Their feelings. They can't answer.
And Donald Trump is just a babe. He's just a babe. He doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. He's 70, but he's just a baby. Thank you very much, Lawrence O'Donnell. This is why you do not ever miss a show. The highly rated The Last Word, weeknights at 10 p.m. right here on MSNBC.
I thought you understood my feelings, Joy. I always thought you understood my
I'm going to...
now...
Lawrence, you've just helped make AMJ... Oh, wait, you just helped make hashtag AMJ the top trending thing on Twitter. You know what my feelings are? I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling great. Thank you very much, Lawrence. Always appreciate your help and your 2 bazillion viewers and fans. And coming up, why is little Marco leading the charge to defend Donald Trump? Feelings. Nothing more than feelings.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.